A highly successful technology executive, standing by a dock overlooking the Pacific Ocean, handed a colleague thousands of dollars in cash for solid gold coins. He and his friends then threw them into the sea together, skipping them like rocks, just for fun. This executive was brilliant. In his 20s, he had designed and patented a key component in modern Wi-Fi routers. Yet years later, he went completely broke. Contrast him with Ronald Read. He was the first in his family to graduate high school, impressively hitchhiking to campus each day. He spent his life in rural Vermont working quietly as a gas station attendant and a janitor. When Read died in 2014 at age 92, the people who knew him were completely baffled. The humble janitor left behind a multi-million-dollar fortune, making international headlines. How does a brilliant technology executive go bankrupt, while a floor-mopping janitor dies a multimillionaire? The answer lies in how we're taught to think about money. We treat it like physics, believing it's governed by strict math and laws. In reality, money operates much more like psychology, driven by emotion, nuance, and ego. Doing well financially has surprisingly little to do with how smart you are, and a lot to do with how you behave. Mastering this psychology of money is the invisible dividing line between financial ruin and lasting wealth. People do bizarre things with their finances, but no one is actually crazy. Everyone goes through life anchored to a set of views about how the global economy works, shaped entirely by their own unique experiences. This chart shows two very different financial realities based purely on birth year. If you were born in 1950, the stock market went literally nowhere in your teens and 20s, adjusted for inflation. But if you were born in 1970, the S&P 500 increased almost tenfold during those exact same formative years. Two groups of people, separated only by the blind luck of their birth year, go through life with completely different, firmly held beliefs about how investing and risk actually work. Because of these differing perspectives, even highly intelligent, wealthy people often fall into the trap of a constantly moving goalpost. They risk what they have and need for what they don't have and don't need, constantly chasing more. At a party thrown by a billionaire hedge fund manager on Shelter Island, the author Kurt Vonnegut was informed by a friend that their host made more money in a single day than Vonnegut had earned from his popular novel Catch-22 over its entire history. Vonnegut simply responded, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough." Getting rich often requires taking risks and being optimistic, but staying wealthy requires the exact opposite. It demands a survival mindset, a specific combination of frugality and paranoia. Mastering money requires recognizing your own experiential blind spots and learning to stop moving your financial goalposts before you wipe out your own success. We often look for visual markers to judge financial success, like luxury cars parked outside a mansion. But there is a catch called the man in the car paradox. When you see someone driving a Ferrari, you rarely admire the driver. Instead, you imagine people admiring you if you were the one behind the wheel. The irony is that spending money to show people how much money you have is the absolute fastest way to have less money. When singer Rihanna nearly went bankrupt from overspending, she sued her financial advisor. He responded by asking if it was really necessary to tell her that if you spend money on things, you end up with the things and not the money. True wealth is what you don't see. It is the unspent assets, the invisible options, the savings, and the flexibility that haven't been converted into material goods. Building that hidden wealth requires accepting that humans are emotional creatures. Trying to act like a coldly rational spreadsheet when managing your money usually leads to burnout. Aiming to just be reasonable works much better. This is especially true because of a psychological blind spot known as the end of history illusion. People consistently underestimate how much their goals, desires, and lives will change in the future. Because you will inevitably evolve, building true wealth requires relentlessly saving money, even if you don't have a specific reason to save, to create massive room for error in your life. So what is the actual end goal of acquiring all this wealth? It comes down to what drives long-term human happiness. Psychologist Angus Campbell researched well-being and found that happiness isn't dictated by the size of your salary, your geography, or the prestige of your job. Instead, the single most powerful common denominator of happiness is having a strong sense of controlling your own life. Money's greatest intrinsic value is its ability to give you control over your time. The freedom to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, is the highest dividend money pays. The brilliant tech executive lost everything because his ego and need for status bought financial destruction. Ronald Reed, the floor-mopping janitor, won the game because he simply used his money to buy his own freedom. To build wealth, lower your ego. Save relentlessly without needing a reason. Recognize that true wealth is invisible and use your money to buy back your time. To learn more about mastering the concepts that shape your world, like, share, and subscribe.